Hello, everyone. I am Mary Robinson, and I'm president of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture. I'm joined today by CFA executives Keith Curry, CFA's first vice president and president of the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, and Chris Vanden Heuvel, second vice president of CFA. We also have representatives from various commodities, regions, and industries within the agriculture sector. Garth White from Fertilizer Canada, Nick Langelier from Chicken Farmers of Canada, and Gary Storty from the Canadian Pork Council, as well as the president of the Agriculture Producers Association of Saskatchewan, Todd Lewis, who can speak on Western grain issues, and the president of l'Union des Producteurs d'Agricole, Marcel Groslo, who can speak on issues from Quebec. We are here in Ottawa at the CFA Annual General Meeting, which brings together farm leaders from across all of Canada. We represent 200,000 Canadian farm families, and we come to you as the voice of a united agriculture community. Every person here with me, as well as their communities, are being severely and harshly impacted by the rail blockades. We have nothing to do with this dispute. The widespread collateral damage of these protests is grinding our entire industry to a halt and is taking a massive toll on farmers across the country. Canadian agriculture is quickly reaching a tipping point where the impact of these blockages will move beyond simply being financially devastating for farmers. If these blockades continue, we will soon reach a point where we can no longer acquire propane to heat barns or feed for animals. Our trucking sector is overwhelmed with demand and does not have the capacity to fulfill it. For our Quebec chicken farmers, 85% of their barns are exclusively heated by propane, and roughly 80% of that propane is delivered by rail. They need approximately 1.1 million liters of propane per week. In Quebec alone, there are roughly 30 million birds being raised, and some suppliers are rationing propane, only half filling farmers' tanks due to shortages. We are risking an animal welfare problem in this country, as farmers run out of propane to keep their animals warm and comfortable and deal with the lack of availability of food to feed them. The kind of stress this puts on farmers and their communities is difficult to convey to you today. This is the second major interruption in rail service alone in the past months. Both of these interruptions have nothing to do with Canadian agriculture, and yet we continue to pay the price. The uncertainty and complete lack of control farmers continually face creates an overwhelming amount of stress, further negatively contributing to an already alarming mental health situation in our community. We cannot continue to have our livelihoods held hostage every time a group wants to put pressure on government. These interruptions also greatly affect Canada's ability to be a reliable and trusted trading partner. If countries cannot rely on Canada to honor their agreements, they will soon seek out other, more consistent trading partners. I have received phone calls from apple farmers as their washed, graded, and packed, ready-for-market apples sit in rail cars, slowly rotting. Purchasers are already telling them that they will be forced to source apples elsewhere if these farmers are unable to fulfill delivery. These blockades are having consequences that will reverberate for years to come. If they continue, the damage to Canada's reputation and agri-food industry will be severe. The president of the Retail Council of Canada stated 5 days ago that food stocks in Quebec grocery stores could be affected by the blockade as early as this week. Grocery shortages have already been reported in Ontario, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. The threat to Canadian food security from an access perspective is real. This is something that should never happen in a country that is the 5th largest exporter of agri-food products. We produce more than enough food but that is immaterial if it cannot reach Canadians. Currently, there are roughly 50 ships sitting in the West Coast, waiting for farmers' products to arrive and be loaded so as to be delivered to international markets. Each and every single one of these ships charges fees for each day they sit in port. We have seen estimates that these fees, along with capacity loss, contract penalties, and deferred sales, are costing $63 million a week. These extra costs will not be paid by ports or rail companies. These extra costs will come directly out of farmers' pockets at a cash crunch time when we need to prepare and invest for the coming crop year. At this point, I can already tell you this coming year will be extremely difficult for Canadian farmers. The theme for our AGM is producing prosperity for the next decade. And I will admit, it is difficult to focus on the potential of the future when our current set of circumstances is so grim. We need decisive actions and leadership on this file. Canadian farmers and our trading partners around the world need to know that the railway system is reliable and consistent, that a small group cannot freeze our entire transportation network. Farmers are frustrated with continually dealing with obstacles that are beyond our control. This situation is real, and we need it to be fixed immediately. We know that Canadian agriculture can be a big part of the solution for economic development, climate change, and food security. We are Canada's second largest employer and contribute almost 7% to national GDP. Our country is the envy of the world. The combination of our natural resources and our agriculture value chain is viewed as one of the best models in the world. Canadian farmers need to get on with what we do best, but we cannot do that when we are struggling to survive and when our entire industry is held hostage as collateral for an issue we have nothing to do with. I would now like to invite any questions. If you would like to ask about specific issues on our commodities, we do have representatives from the Canadian Federation of Agriculture, Fertilizer Canada, Chicken Farmers of Canada, the Pork Council of Canada, as well as representatives from Western grain farmers, farmers on the East Coast, and Quebec.
I guess I'll start. Is this on? I'm Annie with CTV National News. You mentioned that you're at a tipping point, and I guess this might be a question for different industries. I'm wondering how much longer your specific industries can handle a road blockade before it becomes an even more serious and crippling problem.
We do know that 85% of the propane moves by rail. So we do have a small amount of propane that is moving by truck. We know that our trucking sector is severely stressed. They were before we got into this situation, and now there are further demands on them which are unreasonable, and we can't expect them to fill it. As far as how long it will go on, it's difficult to answer that question as we've never been to this point before. So with rationing and excellent management on the part of our propane suppliers as well as our producers, we will go as long as we can.
Any other industry, or that's good?
We've been told by a Quebec supplier that we still have propane for the next 7 to 10 days, but it varies from region also. So, but it's another week will be as much time as possible. We could maintain this. We have to. These situations have to move. Yeah.
We're also learning today that CN and CP over the last week were able to get some of those freight trains moving to allow some supplies to be delivered. I'm wondering if your industries noticed that this movement, and if that sharing of the lines does stop, what impact would that have on the agriculture industry?
We understand that that movement has been just to the west and nothing to the east. So as we look at the issue of propane for heating barns and feed to get to animals on the East Coast and in Quebec, that I don't believe has been addressed.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Mathieu Goyer de Radio-Canada. Une question pour M. Groslo. D'abord, À quel point on est rendu à un point critique? Quelle est la situation à l'heure actuelle, là?
Bon, la semaine dernière, on a fait le point avec le ministère de l'Énergie et Ressources à propos du propane. Le ministère est en train de faire une vérification des inventaires pour avoir un portrait juste de la situation et prendre des mesures par la suite pour limiter l'approvisionnement à certains secteurs prioritaires. Mais on est dans cette discussion-là actuellement avec le ministère. Au niveau de l'approvisionnement à la ferme, notamment du soya et du tourteau de soya, ça aussi, ça devient une situation qui se complique. On est en discussion avec la Fédérée et d'autres groupes, la coopérative fédérée, là, pour essayer encore une fois d'évaluer les inventaires et de voir comment on va réagir ou comment on pourra assurer que tous les producteurs, du moins le plus longtemps possible, puissent être approvisionnés, là, dépendamment de leurs fournisseurs. Alors là, on est plus en évaluation de la situation, mais grosso modo, 7 à 10 jours sont les estimations que nous avons des stocks qui nous restent, là, autant au niveau du propane que du soya, pour faire face à la situation.
Et en sous-question, la ministre Bibeau, la semaine dernière, évoquait une amélioration du programme de compensation fédérale pour les producteurs agricoles. Où est-ce qu'on en est? Avez-vous une proposition concrète de la part de la ministre sur des compensations à verser aux producteurs canadiens?
Bien, je ne répondrai pas à cette question. On est dans un autre sujet que la situation provoquée par la...
Mais justement, la ministre Bibeau disait, à cause de la crise actuelle, il faudrait revoir les compensations. Où est-ce qu'on en est là?
Ben, je n'ai pas eu de discussion avec Mme Bibeau à ce sujet-là depuis. Donc, je ne sais pas.
Lee Berthiaume with the Canadian Press. I'm going to ask a similar question just about whether you have asked or are hoping for either emergency assistance from the federal government at this time or over the more long-term compensation as well.
We haven't gotten to that point. Our main focus right now is to ensure that we see rail reinstated and we get back to business. That is certainly where we've been focusing our efforts. And once we get through this, we will certainly be assessing the situation. And this is just, we've had a myriad of issues in this past year in particular, which I think you're all well aware of, everything from incredibly difficult weather to loss of access to international markets to rail disruption after rail disruption. So we certainly are at a point where our nation should be concerned that our government show leadership and investment to ensure that our agriculture resources properly shored up in these difficult times.
And emergency assistance, is that anything you have raised or plan to raise in the
We
next
haven't
little
gotten to
bit?
that point yet.
Okay, thank you.
Pour M. Groslot, Madame en parlait un peu plus tôt de la situation pour les agriculteurs, les répercussions sur le stress et la santé mentale. Là, vous diriez que dans la dernière année, avec ce blocage qui s'ajoute, où en sont les agriculteurs et qu'est-ce qui se passe pour eux?
Bon, là, c'est sûr que jusqu'à maintenant, aucun agriculteur n'a encore manqué d'approvisionnement de propane ou de tourteau de soya ou autres ingrédients. Mais c'est certain qu'il y a un stress qui s'installe. Puis l'autre élément qu'on n'a pas mentionné, c'est les prix qui augmentent actuellement dû à une rareté possible de ces produits-là. Alors, j'ai eu des appels des gens du Bas-Saint-Laurent. Plus on va vers l'Est, plus la situation se complique. Donc, dans le Bas-Saint-Laurent, en fin de semaine, des gens s'inquiétaient de l'approvisionnement en soya pour leurs troupeaux. Donc, c'est sûr que le stress va augmenter au fur et à mesure que la situation va perdurer. Alors, c'est pour ça qu'on demande au gouvernement de trouver des solutions à ce conflit-là, à cette situation-là. Ça fait 19 jours que le blocage est en cours. Il faut dénouer cette impasse-là. Il faut que le transport des marchandises reprenne au Canada. C'est vital pour notre économie, mais c'est particulièrement essentiel pour le secteur agricole.
La ministre Bibeau sera ici ce soir.
Oui.
Vous avez entendu là, la réaction des ministres du gouvernement, du premier ministre lui-même. Qu'est-ce que vous allez lui demander et sincèrement, avez-vous confiance là, devant ce qui se produit?
Bon, on est obligé de s'en remettre à eux. C'est eux le gouvernement. C'est eux qui ont cette situation-là à gérer. Jusqu'à maintenant, leur stratégie donne plus ou moins de résultats. Alors, c'est sûr qu'on va questionner Mme Bibeau sur la suite des choses. Quelles sont leurs intentions? Quel message envoie-t-on aux producteurs dans les prochains jours? Puis, ce que je tiens à dire aussi, c'est que même si la crise se réglait aujourd'hui, avant que la situation revienne à la normale, on peut être en situation de pénurie, là. On l'a vu, nous, l'automne dernier, la situation de la pénurie de propane ne s'est pas résorbée au lendemain du règlement du conflit de travail. Ça prend encore 10 à 12 jours et même plus dans certains cas, avant que la situation revienne à la normale. Alors, c'est sûr que dans le cas actuel, même si ça se réglait aujourd'hui, ça ne veut pas dire que les conséquences ne seront pas importantes. Alors, c'est également ce qu'on a dit à M. Trudeau dans la lettre qu'on lui a envoyée. On demande également que le gouvernement fédéral soit responsable des dommages qu'aura subi l'industrie agricole, les secteurs agricoles, de cette situation-là.
Mais ça, très rapidement, ça, c'est en quelque sorte une forme de compensation ou avez-vous envisagé des mesures de mitigation?
Éventuellement, il y a des entreprises qui peuvent être en situation financière très difficile s'ils sont en pénurie d'ingrédients pour approvisionner leurs troupeaux ou de propane pour chauffer leurs bâtiments.
Bonjour, Catherine Lévesque, La Presse canadienne. Mes questions sont encore pour M. Groslot. Votre collègue en anglais l'a abordé un peu plus tôt, mais justement sur cette entente temporaire, là, le gouvernement nous dit il y a une entente avec CP actuellement pour avoir certains produits de base, comme du propane d'ailleurs et d'autres produits pour les agriculteurs. Votre collègue a dit que ça ne se rendait pas dans l'Est canadien. Comment se fait-il et comment expliquez-vous cette situation?
Là, je ne suis pas au courant. Je ne peux pas expliquer pourquoi ça ne se rend pas dans l'Est.
Mais votre constat, donc, c'est qu'actuellement,
les dernières informations que j'ai, c'est que vers l'Est, il n'y a pas de mouvement de marchandises. C'est pas. Alors, mais est-ce que ça a changé depuis hier? Je ne sais pas.
OK, très bien. Et puis, on a entendu certains agriculteurs dans les derniers jours dire que si la situation se continue, ils devront décider quels animaux devront mourir, quels animaux devront survivre. Je me demandais, est-ce que c'était généralisé? Est-ce que c'est votre constat actuellement dans l'industrie?
Il y a le secteur de la volaille qui a besoin de propane pour chauffer les bâtiments. Il y a aussi les maternités dans le secteur porcin qui ont besoin de propane. Puis ça va dépendre aussi de la température. Là, on a eu quelques jours plus cléments. Si la température demeurait plus chaude, la situation s'aggraverait moins rapidement, mais on n'est pas rendu à décider qu'est-ce qui va se passer. Si jamais on était là, ce serait sans doute le MAPAC, le gouvernement du Québec, qui aurait à prendre des décisions également.
OK, mais quand vous parlez d'une période de 7 à 10 jours, est-ce qu'on parle de conséquences aussi désastreuses que de décider quels animaux devront mourir?
Nos discussions avec le gouvernement du Québec, c'est que le secteur de l'élevage pour l'approvisionnement en propane serait priorisé. Alors, parmi les autres secteurs qui utilisent du propane. Encore faut-il qu'il y en ait.
OK. J'ai juste une dernière question rapide de mon côté, avant de passer à mon collègue. Quel impact est-ce que les consommateurs peuvent s'attendre à avoir, justement? Est-ce qu'on peut s'attendre, si la situation se continue encore une semaine, à des rations, à une augmentation de prix? Et comment vous voyez ça?
Au niveau des consommateurs, au niveau du détail ou des consommateurs, moi, je n'ai pas encore cette information-là. Je ne sais pas si c'est for consumer.
Any comments on the impact price-wise for Canadians if this situation continues for food and
So what we do know is producers in Canada are price takers. That means that we're paid a price at our gate, and we have very little opportunity to affect that price. So it means that these additional costs that we're facing, which we said are $63 million a week for our grain growers alone, those will come directly out of primary production, and our ability to pass those on does not exist. So as far as how it's going to impact the price of food, that's a difficult question for us to ask because the price of food is only impacted a very small amount by what we get paid.
Sorry, just a couple of follow-ups. Could you just explain that a little bit more in terms of why this will be swallowed by farmers largely as opposed to passed on to consumers?
Perhaps you could tell me who I could send my bill to, and then I'd send it to them.
But, I mean, I don't know. Does it not flow down the supply chain? Or why
We
not? Why
are
doesn't it?
the foundation of this supply chain. We are the foundation of this supply chain.
Okay. You said that you were looking for decisive actions and leadership on this file from the government. Can you be more specific in terms of what you're actually wanting from the government at this point?
Well, we do know that we're farmers, and we know we're pretty darn good farmers, and we focus on doing that well. And we know we have a government that is in charge of governing, and we will leave that to them to find a quick resolution to this issue. And moving forward, as we go down the thought process of how this is going to impact us in future, we're also going to be asking or looking to government to come up with long-term solutions so that our transportation network is protected from this kind of activity. But we are not in the business of governing, we're in the business of growing food.
Thank you.
That's it. I believe that concludes our press conference. Thank you all very much.